Welcome to Faith is the Podcast, everyone. In our faith, a big idea is that who we are in Christ, it's bigger than just what we do, right?
Oh, yeah?
Jesus' gift of salvation, I think, it gives us this, core identity, and it's all about our connection to God, and that's way more profound and lasting than anything, any job, or anything we achieve here.
Absolutely, yeah. Like our understanding of who we are, our identity, it shifts. It's not about, what we've done or what we've earned. It's something we already have through that connection with God. It's like our jobs and our titles, they're not really who we are. They're just, temporary ways we express ourselves, but not the real us, not in the eternal sense.
Right, right. And speaking of connections, huge thanks to Business Referred for supporting the podcast. If you're a local business looking to advertise, reach out to them. Their email is info@businessreferred.com. So today, we're diving deep, really deep into something that I think challenges how we see ourselves and other people. And it's this idea that we shouldn't define people by what they do, because what they do, it's not who they are.
Yeah.
And the stuff we've been looking at, it suggests that not getting this can lead to a lot of unhappiness.
It's true. And it's interesting, think about it. When you meet someone new, what's the first thing we usually do? We talk about work.
What do you do?
Exactly. I'm a designer. I'm in marketing. I'm in tech, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the source we've been looking at, it's this discussion by Dr. Myles Munroe, and he really makes us think, okay, strip all that away, those temporary roles, what's left? Who are you really at your core?
Okay, so let's break this down. Dr. Munroe, he's very clear. He says something like, your job is temporary, but your purpose, that's eternal. Your job is for a season, your purpose is for generations. That really hits you, doesn't it? It's like there's something so much bigger to us than just our work, something that lasts.
It does make you think, how much of, how we feel about ourselves, our self-worth, is tied up in our jobs and our success and status at work. The source is saying that's not a good foundation for our identity because, jobs can change, careers can change.
Right.
But who we are, like our value as people, especially in our faith, as children of God, that never changes.
That's so true. And what happens when that job ends? The source is saying if our identity is all wrapped up in our job, losing it, it's devastating, not just practically, but emotionally and even spiritually.
For sure. It's like your whole world gets pulled out from under you.
Yeah.
If how we see ourselves is all about our achievements, then, life has its ups and downs, so we're going to be all over the place.
Yeah.
The source is saying there's a better way. He says we should anchor our identity in our purpose. That's way more solid. Purpose doesn't retire,
Yeah. And this is where it gets really interesting. The source, he uses these powerful images. He says things like, birds were born to fly, fish were born to swim, trees were born to make fruit. You were born to solve a problem on earth that no one else can solve the way you can.
I love that.
Right. It's like each of us, we have this unique purpose. It's like this divine idea, but, inside a person.
Yeah. And what I find really fascinating about that is it suggests that our purpose, we don't have to go out searching for it. It's not like, this thing out there we have to find. It's already inside us. It's like a gift, maybe even from God. The source even says that before we had a name, we had a purpose. So it's like it's fundamental to who we are.
Wow.
So it's not about struggling to achieve something. It's about discovering something that's already there.
Okay, so the danger then, like the source says, is getting so caught up in what we're doing right now that we forget the why behind it, our purpose. We might have this job, this role, but maybe it's just a step, like a training ground for something way bigger. And to explain this, the source uses some really great examples from the Bible.
Yeah, like Moses.
Yeah.
He was a shepherd for 40 years before leading the Israelites out of Egypt.
Right.
And David, he was just a delivery boy, but that led him to face Goliath and eventually become king.
Wow.
And of course, there's Jesus. He was a carpenter before, revealing his divine purpose. These examples, they show us that those temporary roles, they can be preparation for a much bigger calling. If we had just looked at what they were doing at that moment, we would have totally missed who they really were, what they were meant to do.
Exactly. And the source, he warns us about being too quick to tell people what we do for a living because it can make them put us in a box. They limit how they see us based on that one thing. Once they label you, it's harder for them to see the bigger picture, who you really are and what you're capable of.
Like you're protecting your potential, right?
Yeah.
And the source mentions the story of Joseph. He shared his dreams, maybe a little too soon, and it didn't go well for him. So there's like wisdom in knowing when and how to share our big aspirations.
Yeah.
If people only see us as our job title, they might not understand or support us on our journey to find our true purpose.
So the big takeaway here, I think, is that our true identity, our purpose, it's not tied to our jobs or what we achieve. It comes from something way deeper,
Yeah.
like this foundational source that in our faith we see as something from God.
Mm.
And what we do, it's just a temporary expression of that. It's a step on the path to fulfilling that bigger purpose.
Absolutely. And this makes me wonder, for you listening, are there things you're doing, roles you're playing, that you're mistaking for who you really are? Are you so attached to certain professions or titles that you're missing a bigger sense of purpose?
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, what would happen if you stopped focusing so much on what I do and started focusing on who I am becoming? Would that change how you see yourself and where your life is headed?
Thinking about those examples from the Bible, it makes me wonder, Moses the shepherd, David the delivery boy, Jesus the carpenter, their jobs were important, but they didn't define them. What about you? What temporary role are you in right now that might actually be getting you ready for something amazing? Something that lines up with who you truly are, that deeper identity, maybe even something God has planned for you.
That's powerful stuff to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into identity and purpose.
This has been really eye-opening.
And thank you for listening to The Faith is the Podcast.